7+ years, many millions of dollars, and Ethereum is still my favorite cryptocurrency out of everything. And the reason for that, and I've traded Ethereum, so it was my first ever trade more than 7 years ago. And I lost money on it, but the thing is when you understand Ethereum, it actually behaves and moves quite consistently, and more importantly, it has the market cap of Bitcoin when it was trading at $15,000. But out of everything in the whole world, this is the market cap of everything. Gold's at the very top. Nvidia is the most valuable company in the world. Out of everything in the world, Ethereum is ranked 31. And this is a really, really big deal, right? Ethereum's market cap is about 5 times smaller than Bitcoin. So, you know, that's Bitcoin when it was at $15,000. That's the equivalent. And the reason that all of that is such a big deal is that Ethereum is a coin which out of every single market cycle since Ethereum was created, which is like since 2016 or 15 or something, it's gone very, 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 very up in every single market cycle. That's number one. But number two, it's also not as risky as the other coins, right? So what we're basically looking at here is, look, if Bitcoin pulls a 3x gain, I would probably expect Ethereum to pull a 10x gain, for example, right? So what we're looking at is that anything Bitcoin does, Ethereum is going to do better, which is what every altcoin does. But most importantly, Ethereum doesn't have the risk profile of other coins. And that's what makes it really different, right? With other coins, you are taking on immense amounts of risk. With Ethereum, you're really not taking that much risk on compared to the others, but you're still getting into something that has a lot of upside potential. So I love Ethereum. Obviously, this video is going to be part of a wider multi-part series. I've already told you about that, but if somehow you've missed it, this video is actually in a playlist and the context matters. I'm giving really, really cool analysis on other altcoins and how I'm going to be trading them, like with legitimate entries and stuff like that. I'm just telling you my plans. So that's all part of the multi-part series. You got to watch it with the link in the description to get it on the playlist. But again, I think Ethereum's a great one to start with for all of those reasons. And it's got a pretty good chart, right? I mean, you know, it topped out at about $5,000. It bottomed out at $855. And now we're already at $3,000 at the time of recording, which only puts us a short 2,000 or 58% away from its all-time high. And I think that's going to be, you know, I think it's going to be relatively, you know, manageable for Ethereum. The good thing about all of these charts is that, you know, the higher you get, there's not actually that much trading that happened in these kind of big ranges, right? So, you know, you can actually move up pretty quickly, but the downside is that you also move down pretty much equally as quickly. So that's kind of, that's how it works in these kind of zones in the market. But all of that's completely fine by me because this is a market that's not interesting right now. It's going to be interesting after it breaks its all-time high, after things get really interesting. And so this is, you know, we have to first determine, is this something where Ethereum is even likely to you know, recover and then continue moving up? And we've kind of already answered the recovery question. Like, yeah, I mean, it's already recovering, so that's a great start. Other coins comparatively, you know, they need to move up by 5x or, you know, 10x or 15x to reach their all-time high. Ethereum only needs to move up by like 50-60%, right? So it's quite manageable from that perspective. And then obviously we're also in a bull market. So if we go through this with the checklist that I described to you guys earlier, then you're going to remember that the very first key requirement is that we're already in a bull market, and that's clearly where we are. So pretty much every coin is going to get that. But specifically Ethereum, on Ethereum's chart, this chart is in a bull market. I mean, you know, this chart, since it's low at 850, has pulled off a 4 times gain. So it's actually done very well. It's done a lot worse than Bitcoin, even from its absolute low to its current price, which I think is almost funny. But it's doing very, very well on its own. You can't say the same thing for Ethereum against Bitcoin. And so this is where Ethereum really gets weaker. Ethereum has been in a significant downtrend against Bitcoin for a very long time, and it's now reaching macro resistance. So I really don't think it's going to do well up here. And so it's in a bull market in terms of wider crypto. It's also in a bull market on its own chart. It's just in a very, very bad bear market against Bitcoin. Still, I give it a pass on checkpoint number 1. Checkpoint number 2, dev activity. Okay, so dev activity is cool because we've got a ton of stuff going on with Ethereum and its devs. We've got the Ethereum Foundation here opened up on Twitter, and you know, you can scroll through this for days. There's always events, there's always stuff going on, there's always more developments. Vitalik did get his first, maybe hopefully 10th or 100th girlfriend. Maybe first, I don't know, we'll see. And there have been some rumors of him kind of being a little bit too lost in there and not really working too hard on Ethereum. Look, I personally wouldn't be too worried about that, just knowing how highly successful people are. Even people like Vitalik, typically, even a girl is not going to be enough to take them away from their work. That's usually more of like a normal guy problem. But someone as autistic as Vitalik, I would say they're all right. They're not going to be too... they're not going to be in trouble. So in terms of dev activity, we're looking pretty good. And obviously, if we just look at the Ethereum website itself, which I don't think I've actually opened up here, but there's tons of stuff going on. Obviously, we talked about community, and in terms of events, I mean, look at this. We got San Francisco, literally. Well, that was just last month, so that's already happened. And these are all past. These are the upcoming ones, my bad. And so we got Bangkok over here, lots of Bangkok apparently, and then all over the world before that. And so Ethereum, itself in an official capacity is doing a lot of events. The community itself is doing a lot of events. And when we talk about the community, I mean, there's so much you can say here. Obviously, marketing wise, Ethereum is looking very, very strong, right? I mean, you're looking at an uptrend here in Ethereum's interest on Google. And by the way, I don't think Bitcoin is even looking this good. Let's take a very, very quick look at how Bitcoin's interest chart is. Yeah, Bitcoin's pretty good as well, actually. So Ethereum's looking good from that perspective as well. Perhaps better because Bitcoin's tapering off, but Ethereum isn't. So I think that's definitely cool. And you can just see, look, it's just kind of popping off with related topics here. So good stuff, I think, in terms of community, it's looking good. It's looking good from marketing perspectives. From a TA perspective, it's looking really sweet. Take a look at this chart right here. This is kind of Ethereum's high. I mean, it's obviously a little bit higher now because the whole market has broken out since, like a few hours ago when I made all of these notes. But, we got some really interesting support levels. This one here lines up with its 0.5 Fibonacci level. This Fibonacci gets drawn from about 2,300 up to its current high. So you got some nice retracements into really, really nice support levels. So, from a technical perspective, it's looking okay. That's a super short-term perspective. Here's a longer-term perspective. We're kind of looking at this right now, and we've broken out of resistance, and that's a really big deal, right? We've actually bounced off micro support, and it's also broken macro resistance, and I think that's a really, really big deal. I want to show you what this macro resistance looks like really quickly. It's kind of something a little bit like this. This is kind of what I'm seeing where we get some really nice clear rejections, but also some support hits. This one triggered the all-time high run, so that was pretty important. We got some really nice bounces off this level, and we were already finding resistance here in the recent months. So, definitely an important level, this $2,800 price zone for Ethereum, and it has broken that macro resistance. Also, obviously, just looking at it from this particular chart, we've broken it here on the weekly, quite some time back. We've broken it on the daily just a couple of days ago. So it's looking good, right? I mean, it's got a good technical chart. It's making progress. And I think overall, what we might end up seeing here is just kind of more lagging behind Bitcoin, right? I'm still expecting it to get dragged higher, but I'm not expecting it to outperform Bitcoin yet. I think that time is going to be dependent on Bitcoin's dominance, which was what we spoke about in the very first video in this series. But Ethereum itself, I think that, it's looking good. And when things are ready to go, this is going to be one of the most obvious picks. The other thing that I want to say specifically about Ethereum is that the reason Ethereum is interesting and all the other altcoins is because I want to make more Bitcoin, right? Ultimately, I'm a Bitcoin maxi, and I believe that Bitcoin's the best place to be because overall everything defaults back to Bitcoin, and we've seen that with Bitcoin's dominance, right? I mean, you can have the most euphoric, amazing alt seasons ever, and Bitcoin's dominance will still go back up to 60. That's happened so many times now. So, I think it's been proven pretty clearly that, at the end of the day, when the dust settles, everything goes back into... You can deny it. A lot of people deny it, but, the numbers just aren't on your side. So, now it's more of an emotional thing, and I'm not going to participate in that conversation. So, so just keeping it rooted in facts and, actual trends and things that have been happening and that's been proven across history, I think that's kind of what we're looking at. And so when we look at Bitcoin's dominance, that's where I think things could get very, very interesting. And how this relates to Ethereum now is even better, because if we take a look at this Ethereum chart here, because if you look at the chart, and this is where I was able to trade Ethereum so well. I remember it was back here, I was actually able to perfectly sell the top, buy the bottom, sell the top again, or something similar. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was very, very similar to playing the tops and the bottoms. Ethereum's chart is great for that. And that's where this gets really, really interesting for me, because as I was saying, the objective is to make the Bitcoin, right? The money ends up flowing back into Bitcoin, but until, between now and when that happens, there's going to be a lot of gains in the altcoin market. And if I want to keep my Bitcoins up, then I can't stay in Bitcoin. I have to diversify a little bit, right? And that's the whole point of this multi-part series, and specifically Ethereum, because Ethereum's got such an easy Bitcoin chart. You see, if we take a look at Ethereum's Bitcoin chart from this perspective, and this perspective, and this, then what you're going to notice in all of these situations, basically everything in this price range that stretches from, let's put down a couple horizontal lines, what you're going to see is that Ethereum, especially Ethereum against Bitcoin, only moves up very, very quickly in this price range, or moves down very, very quickly. And like it doesn't hang around in this price range, right? What we saw recently was a little bit different. We'll get to that in just a minute. But what we saw previously, ladies and gents, it's so telling, is that Ethereum actually makes really quick work of this range. I mean, here on the daily time frame, you're talking about kind of getting a bounce off this level on March 19, and then reaching resistance on March 24. And this is, by the way, to give you a sense, I mean, this is against Bitcoin. It gained 60% value. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, if Bitcoin was rising at the same time, which it was, Ethereum is just blowing up. It's just an absolutely crazy chart. And then, we see the same thing constantly. Again, just all the way to the top very, very quickly. And then when you're coming back down, it's also very quick to come back down. And then again, very quick to come back up. And then again, very quick to come back down. So, we don't do this in this price range, right? Like this kind of chop, this doesn't happen in this price range between 0.35 and 0.57 BTC per token. And the reason I think that is a big deal is because, that should probably mean that if Ethereum starts taking off again, it's probably going to make very quick work of this entire range and come back to the top again. And I think that's what I find especially interesting here for this chart. Now, knowing this, I don't think we're actually there yet, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. But this is kind of what this chart is comprised of. This chart is comprised of really big jumps that it can make. It doesn't mean it will do any of these things, but it can do them. Because we saw this constantly back here in this range too. It was the same, it just looks a little bit scarier, but it was the same thing. Right from the bottom, all the way to the top, and then back to the bottom, and then back to the top. And, we're just constantly right to the top, and then down, and then up, and then down. And in this case, we didn't come back up. But we're still getting many repeated tests of these ranges. And it's still broadly, it's this like whiplash, like up and down extreme. It might take some time, but it still gets there. And so the point is that this is quite an easy way to just gain some more BTC. And again, I keep coming back to the BTC argument, but the reason that this is a big deal is because if everything goes back into Bitcoin eventually, and specifically if Bitcoin keeps getting very strong, and that's like an easy bet to make, it's easy to say that Bitcoin's probably not going to zero anymore, then I want more Bitcoin, right? Like I don't really care what Ethereum is or what it becomes or any of that stuff, because I'm just not in the business of betting on what the next Bitcoin will be. I don't fucking care. I want nice cars and nice houses. Get the fuck out with any other nonsense. I just don't care. And so, it's really not me to be commenting on which crypto is going to become the king of kings. I just recognize that Bitcoin's safe and Bitcoin keeps, going up overall. And so I want to make my Bitcoins. And this is a really easy way for me to earn an extra, 2.2x on my Bitcoin up to that resistance level, which is where I think Ethereum can go against Bitcoin. I've also wondered if Ethereum can set a new all-time high against Bitcoin. Its all-time high was 0.15 BTC per token, which is 15% of a Bitcoin, to buy one Ethereum. Pretty expensive Ethereum token. I don't know if Ethereum can get there or surpass it. I mean, at current levels, that does put Ethereum at about $14,000. I'm sorry, I've got that wrong. That puts Ethereum at about $10,000, which is totally conceivable. It's just that by then, I would expect Bitcoin to be significantly higher. But the other thing is that obviously, on the whole, Bitcoin's dominance is still trending down. It always ends up going back up, but it doesn't go up as high as it used to. And so the reason that that's important is that kind of tells me that overall, yeah, I'd probably expect, just as you can see on this ultra long-term chart, there is a chart pattern here so far, we're actually holding it, of higher lows. And I still think we're going to hold it even in the worst case scenario, because my absolute bottom target for Ethereum right now is here. I do think we could get lower. We could probably get down to like here or even lower. But I mean, it would be very surprising. I think this is a very reasonable absolute low. So that means 0.24 BTC per token. This one is 0.3 BTC per token. You know, and so Ethereum's just generally been setting higher highs and higher low. I'm sorry, higher lows specifically against Bitcoin, not higher highs. You know, so maybe we see that trend continue, right? So that's something that I'm definitely open to. But again, in all of those cases, it means that Ethereum is so low against Bitcoin. This is the only chart that I think is necessary to even look at. But, you know, obviously we're on YouTube. This is a little bit of a wider audience, and a lot of you guys want to see the USD charts, and that's why we cover them. But none of them matter to me. It's only this Bitcoin chart, right? Because if the Bitcoin chart looks good, and specifically, if it looks like it's worth buying it instead of holding Bitcoin, then that's the only decision I'm going to make, right? I'm either all in on Bitcoin or I'm all in on Bitcoin plus some other altcoins, and so you know this is going to be how I make my decisions. And yeah, I mean, as far as this chart goes, I think it could drop a little bit more. I don't think it could drop substantially more. But the upside here, my God, I mean, you know, it would go up by more than 2x and it would still be in totally reasonable territory. Even if it set the all-time high and set an all-time high and got above 0.15 BTC per token, you know, I mean, you know, it depends on how it gets there, but I'm open to how Ethereum can do it. That's the bottom line, and that's what I'm really, really interested in. So to me, this is going to be the most interesting altcoin, and that's why we started with it. It's obviously tradable everywhere that I'm already trading, and you get huge bonuses when you start trading using these links. So check them out in the description if you want to get free cash to trade with, because you can withdraw the profits that you make with that money. Only use these exchanges if you're not from a restricted region. That's really important. You got to check your local laws and regulations. But with that, ladies and gents, I'm going to be heading off. I'll see you all in the next one.